What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat on my brand new channel, starting all over, starting fresh because my old one was banned. So here we are. And on my old channel, I did a breakdown and prediction for UFC 281, but I have only discussed 3 fights on the main card. But in this re-uploaded version, I decided, you know what? Screw it. I will include the entire main card, starting from the main card opener all the way to the main event. Very exciting card. We got Dan Hooker on the card. We got Frankie Edgar with his retirement fight. And then also Poirier versus Chandler. That one's going to be an insane one. And then we got the 2 title fights with Esparza, Weili in the strawweight division. Adesanya and Pereira, the middleweight championship of the world. So let's get this thing started. So the first fight of the main card, we got Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. Dan Hooker has gone through a bit of a rough patch as of recent. He's 1-3 in his last 4. He's been very inconsistent since losing to Dustin Poirier. Dan Hooker is returning to the lightweight division after trying his chances out in the featherweight division. Not a good idea. He left featherweight a long time ago to, make a full-time run in the lightweight division for a reason, because featherweight just is not his suited weight class. He's a lot more drained there. He's just not the same beast in the featherweight division. So not a smart idea. So that's a big part of why Arnold Allen smashed him. But even in the lightweight division with his losses, to Poirier and to Chandler, Islam, he's only lost to the best of the best, He's lost to Chandler, who, has fought for the title in the UFC lightweight division, and he's a former Bellator 3-time lightweight champion. Dustin Poirier, former interim lightweight champion. And then Islam Makhachev, the undisputed UFC lightweight champion. And then Arnold Allen, he's got a bright future in the featherweight division. So Dan Hooker, he's not just losing to bums, but outside of that level of competition that he's been unable to beat, Dan Hooker is still a very solid fighter, still a very dangerous fighter. And I believe Claudio Puelles, for as dangerous as he is a major step down from the level of competition that Dan Hooker has been through. He's nowhere near as good as a Dustin Poirier, a Michael Chandler, an Islam Makhachev, or an Arnold Allen. However, Claudio, he is dangerous. He does have some good stand-up, and he does have a dangerous ground game as well. Nasty Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, good submissions. But getting the fight to the ground against Dan Hooker is going to be tough. Dan Hooker, when he's not fighting Islam, has shown very good takedown defense. And Hooker himself has very good grappling. Hard guy to take down, so I think Claudio probably won't be able to get the fight to the ground. And if it comes down to the striking, I favor Dan Hooker massively. Very dangerous on the feet, a lot of power, but dangerous knees up the center, which he's known for. Dangerous kicks. I think Dan Hooker is an all-around better fighter. And if Dan Hooker really turns up, on his best night against Claudio, I believe he's going to show that there's levels to this game and that he will bounce back in this matchup. I'm not counting out Claudio's Puelles. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Not counting him out. He is a dangerous fighter, and he does have good chances to win. But style-wise, I just think it favors Hooker regardless of his, recent, downslide. All right, moving up the main card now, we got Frankie the Answer Edgar versus Chris Guitierez. Frankie Edgar, this is his retirement fight. This is his last fight. Frankie Edgar is a fan favorite. He is an absolute legend. I've grown up watching Frankie Edgar for many years, and he's been one of my favorite fighters. Honestly, I don't really know much about Chris Guitierez. I do know he is dangerous. He is on the come up. He does have some good skills. He is well-rounded, but from a biased standpoint, I'm just going to pick Frankie Edgar because why not? He's a legend. It's his retirement fight, and I want him to go out on top. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I do think Chris is a good fighter, and he does have a good record, but is Guitierez on the level of a Corey Sandhagen or a Marlon Chito Vera? Those are the only bantamweights who have currently beaten Frankie Edgar in his run in the bantamweight division. I could see Frankie Edgar losing this fight. I'm not ruling out Guitierez as like an entirely winnable fight. for Frankie Edgar, you know, not by any means, but seeing that Guitierez at the moment, he is unranked. He doesn't really have a lot of hype in the division. You know, I think it's safe to say he really isn't on that level of those top bantamweights that Frankie just past his prime can't beat. So I do think this is a good matchup for Frankie to go out on a win with, but I won't be surprised if he does lose because, you know, Edgar, he's old. You know, he's way past it. He's washed. He's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. But Frankie, he knows he has to win this fight, and he's motivated to do so on his last outing. And I believe we are going to see Frankie, you know, sort of, I don't want to say at his best because he's not going to be at his best, but he's going to give it his all for this matchup against Chris Guitierez. And he's going to come in with a different fire. So, yeah, I'm going with the answer, Frankie Edgar, to get the dub. All right, moving on now to the feature fight of this card in the lightweight division, the matchup that everybody is excited for. Everybody and their mom is excited for this fight. Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Iron Michael Chandler, which I do predict will be the fight of the night. Gonna be a crazy fight. And this has been my dream matchup, you know, even when Chandler was in Bellator. I've always wanted him to cross over to the UFC and fight a guy like Dustin Poirier. And now we're going to find out. We're going to get to see this fight. And both guys, they're never in boring fights. They're always an exciting fight. So it's a recipe for one of the best fights of the year. With that being said, I do favor Dustin Poirier to win this fight. I just think he's more durable than Michael Chandler. And he's a better boxer than Michael Chandler as well. You know, both guys are tough and scrappy, but Poirier, like I said, better defense, cleaner boxing technique, and he can take shots. He can take damage a lot better. Michael Chandler, he gets dropped in a lot of fights. He does have a bit of a suspect chin, and he does have good wrestling, which honestly is something that he should lean towards in this matchup. You know, if he wants to win this fight, Dustin can be taken down. Chandler can take him down, and he could possibly wrestle him to a decision. That is a path to victory. But the problem with Chandler is that he doesn't wrestle like until he starts losing on the feet or until he gets hurt. You know, we've kind of seen that sort of in his UFC run and in one Bellator fight. You know, in Bellator, Brent Primus, Chandler was willing to strike with him until he got dropped, and then he wrestled him to a decision. You know, with Justin Gaethje, he didn't start wrestling until he got dropped. With Tony Ferguson, it took for Tony to actually be winning the stand-up to knock him down for Chandler to go for that takedown at the end of round one. And against Dustin Poirier, you can't make that mistake. If Poirier hurts you once, unless you're someone like Oliveira or Khabib or Holloway, Dustin usually will finish you. Like, he is a good finisher, one of the best finishers in the lightweight division, and there's really no chance to recover or get back in the fight when he has you hurt. And if he starts rocking Michael Chandler in that fight, it might be too late for Chandler to start wrestling. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. I think Chandler will try and strike with Dustin Poirier, which will be a mistake. And Dustin, he will find those openings to catch Michael Chandler somewhere in this fight. And once Dustin smells blood, he's like a shark. When he sees that opening to go for the kill, he capitalizes on it very effectively. And Chandler is very knockout prone. Dustin Poirier is not. And I think by the time Chandler gets rocked, he might be too out of it to really wrestle. So I got Dustin Poirier winning this fight by TKO. Within any round, could be the first, second, or third, doesn't really matter when. I could see this fight going the distance, and if it does go to a decision, Chandler's chances to win are very high, because I could see Chandler, you know, winning rounds through damage, hurting Dustin a few times, having big moments with takedowns that could win him on points if he doesn't get finished. However, with the holes in Chandler's defensive striking and seeing the way he gets rocked in these fights, it's hard not to see Dustin getting him up on out of there. So yeah, Dustin is my overall pick. However, this will be a crazy fight for however long it lasts, and I cannot wait. May the best man win. All right, moving on to the strawweight championship of the world. We got two-time strawweight champion Carla Cookie Monster Esparza looking to make the first defense of her title against the former strawweight champ who's looking to reclaim the title, Magnum Zhang Weili. Carla Esparza has had a very successful underdog run in these last few years. She's on a 6-fight win streak, and in 5 of her last 6 fights, she's been a betting underdog. And now in this matchup, once again, she is counted out. No one's expecting her to win. The odds are against Carla, and once again, she is an underdog. But this time, I believe her underdog run comes to an end. November 12th, 2022 is the end of Carla's win streak. Her luck does run out when she faces Magnum Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili is a horrible matchup for Carla Esparza. She's way too complete, more well-rounded than Carla. She just has more tools, more ways to win. Carla Esparza is a very good wrestler. Now that Tatiana's gone, Carla is the best wrestler in the division. But Zhang Weili can wrestle too, as shown in her last 2 fights, the rematch with Rose and the rematch with Joanna, and she's made massive improvements to her game. She's ever evolving, rapidly progressing from fight to fight. Carla Esparza, not so much. Carla Esparza, her style is very predictable. She does the same thing every fight. She's a very good wrestler, but she's very defensive on the feet. She kind of plays around the outside, has decent footwork, good feints, looks to bait you into a double leg takedown, but that's literally all she does. You know, that's a big part of her game, but I don't know if that is going to work on Zhang Weili. I believe to get a takedown, she's going to have to get in the fire against Zhang, which she's not going to be willing to do because Zhang is way too powerful, too much of a risk of her getting knocked out. And in the striking, Weili has a massive advantage, way better striker, and very lethal on the feet. We know she can hurt Carla Esparza, and something tells me Carla Esparza does not have a very good chin. I don't see her being durable enough to handle the best shots of Zhang Weili. If she tries to fight Zhang from the outside, Zhang will pick her apart. If she tries to get in the clinch to work her wrestling, Zhang Weili is better in the clinch, nasty with her elbows, nasty with her knees, where she can do a lot of damage from the inside, which could make Carla Esparza very hesitant to work her wrestling in this fight. Now, I'm not saying Carla will not try and wrestle and just will not get a takedown. Of course, she'll probably take Weili down at some point in this fight, but it's not going to be easy. She's going to take a lot of damage just to get the fight to the ground, and getting Weili down is going to be a piece of work. And when they are on the ground, Zhang Weili is very active from the bottom. She's got a good guard, elbows off her back where I believe she'll do damage. And Weili also has good jiu-jitsu from off her back. Her ground game is good. Her scrambling ability is very good. Weili is an effective grappler. Weili can easily handle herself in these grappling situations against Carla. She can defend takedowns against Esparza, but she could even get takedowns on Carla Esparza. Zhang Weili has shown in her last couple fights that she can get people to the ground, and Carla can be taken down. We've seen that in some fights. And I can very well see Weili actually beating Carla at her own game, but she can even reverse takedowns of Carla Esparza and end up on top, use that strength to her advantage to advance into dominant positions and do damage with ground and pound and maybe get a finish via ground and pound or potentially even find a submission. And I kind of get a weird feeling that Zhang Weili, she just might submit Carla Esparza. I don't know why. Something tells me that Zhang might win via submission. But I also kind of visualize her getting Carla in the crucifix and just pounding her out. If not, she'll likely get a finish on the feet. But either way, it doesn't matter. Whichever method Zhang Weili wins this fight, she's just so much better than Carla Esparza. Rose is better than Carla Esparza. She just didn't show up in that last fight, but Zhang Weili will. She's gonna turn up. She's gonna maul and brutalize Carla Esparza and regain her strawweight title. And we're going to hear and new. And Zhang will solidify herself as the third 2-time strawweight champion in UFC history. All right, moving on now to the main event, the middleweight championship of the world. Israel, the last stylebender, Adesanya versus Alex Poatan Pereira. This is the third matchup between these two, but in a different sport. Both these guys already fought twice in the sport of kickboxing, Glory Kickboxing, where Alex Pereira is 2-0 over Adesanya. Beat him by decision the first time, controversial, but got it done, and then knocked Adesanya out in the rematch. Although it was a fight he was losing, he did pull through, and he did win. However, this is a different sport. This is MMA. Israel Adesanya has a lot more experience in MMA. He's got more UFC experience, and he's fought the best guys in the world multiple times, and he's been successful in a lot of those fights. And he's far more tested than Alex Pereira against better, more high-level elite competition, and a lot more championship experience, and a lot more tested over 5 rounds. Pereira is getting this premature title shot only because he's beaten Izzy twice. The guy who he beat twice in a different sport is the world champion. But that was a long time ago. That was then, and this is now. And a lot of people are picking Pereira just based off the fact that he beat Izzy twice in another sport, and the fact that, he knocked him out, and he's still capable of knocking out Israel Adesanya. He is very dangerous. He definitely is a threat. But I'm not just going to pick Alex just because he's 2-0 over Israel, just because he has that knockout win over Israel Adesanya. That's not how this works. And I feel like Israel, he's kind of a better fighter than Pereira, in all honesty. He should have won the first fight. He was winning the second fight before the KO. And without that 8-second count, Israel Adesanya would have got Alex Pereira out of there. And there's not going to be that 8-second count for the ref to save Pereira in MMA, in a completely different sport. So if Izzy has Pereira out on his feet, he will very well finish Alex Pereira. Like I said, Israel Adesanya, far more tested. We've seen him against better competition. And also, his style is better adapted to the sport of MMA than Alex Pereira. We know Adesanya actually does have a bit of a grappling game. We have not seen that on display offensively, but this weekend, Adesanya could surprise Alex Pereira with some good grappling, with some good clinch work to throw Pereira off his game and potentially wear Alex Pereira down. I do feel like Israel Adesanya is going to have a cardio advantage, and it's definitely going to show. If this fight goes past the third round, I see Israel Adesanya completely taking control of the fight. Pereira's never seen rounds 4 and rounds 5, and that could be problematic. I just think Israel Adesanya, his skills overall are much better than Alex Pereira's. I think he's smarter than Alex Pereira. And even when it comes down to the striking, outside of that one left hook that he caught Adesanya with, if he's not able to catch him with that again, I think Israel will just outpoint him. He'll simply outpoint Pereira. He'll pick him apart. He's a lot more slick, harder to hit. Pereira is a lot easier to hit than Israel Adesanya, and I think Israel will just take advantage of that. And either he wins on the scorecards or wins a late finish. I just see Adesanya's championship experience and 5-round experience carrying him through this fight and getting him that W. And I think Israel Adesanya, it's just his time, and I think he's going to defend his belt for a 6th time and further cement his legacy as one of the greatest middleweights of all time. And he gets his revenge over Alex Pereira, and we're going to hear and still. But that's it for my breakdown and prediction for the main card of UFC 281. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.